Well, Dictator Lincoln's at it again. If you don't rejoin the Union, you're going to lose your property. Hello and welcome to Civil War in Hindsight. I'm Lieutenant Tommy. With me on this very hot, balmy summer day is Prospector Johnny. And Johnny, this week's going to open up on the 25th with Dictator Lincoln continuing down that path.
Just
dictatorishness.
Keep on keeping on with his return to the monarchy, where he is the royal leader. And what is he doing now to
he is gonna
take away everything that this beautiful country was built upon?
He's going to come out with a public declaration about the Confiscation Act that was, started over in our Congress, in which he's going to say, and I quote, persons participating or abating the rebellion to return to their proper allegiance to the United States on pain of the forfeitures and seizures of your property. So if you do not come back, we're going to take your shit.
Oh, that's dope. So if the South doesn't surrender, we now own the South, which would negate any reason for them to surrender because we just passed a law saying we owned them. And so this war's over. Unless, of course, he was just meaning people in the Union and maybe some of those like middle states and talking about them and saying that we'll take your land if you don't pledge some sort of allegiance to...
Yeah, because if you remember, Pope last week was like, if you don't pledge your support, we're going to take your shit and treat you as a spy. So I think Lincoln's just double downing on this.
He's just jumping on that bandwagon and saying, yep, that's what we're doing. Go ahead and...
country, tis of thee.
You want to know what, Union? I'd go ahead and just put up a sign in your front yard that says "Go Union Troops" or something like that, so that they don't take a look at your property and say, you know what, I don't want that, and then try to throw
nice
some bullshit on you.
Got there.
Yeah. Lincoln's about to have all sorts of really nice lake houses, isn't he?
Lincoln's
all over the Midwest.
On the 26th of July, Johnny, it's a day of skirmishing with no real casualties or battles, but damn it, we're shooting at everybody and everything because there is fighting in Orange Courthouse, Virginia, Cortland, Alabama, Clinton Ferry, Tennessee, Mountain Store, Missouri, Holy Springs, Mississippi, and Jackson, Tennessee. We are just bored and taking pop shots at everything.
None of that. Nothing big enough for a battle.
No, nothing big enough for a battle.
Or to be considered a battle. It's literally just bored folks popping off shots towards the other group
that are popping off shots.
Perhaps.
Yeah, pretty much.
Any injuries or anything happen?
Some minor casualties, yes. And I mean, there's still people dying, but it's not enough for me to like. There was a half a dude over here. I know.
Unless you die in a major battle, who gives a shit about you and your family?
If I had to go around,
I hope you don't have kids at home
and write down everybody's name that
and care about every human being.
It would just be an endless list of names.
Do it.
You know how many people died of dysentery last week, Johnny? I can't.
No.
That doesn't count.
Because you're not writing them down.
On the 27th, Johnny, it appears that the Far West wants to renew some action of its own when battle starts to take place at Fort Gibson, Oklahoma Territory, a.k.a. Indian land. So this is just a little chunk of land that's supposed to be for Indians just north of Texas. Yeah, that's, we're not getting some fighting over there.
Okay, so is this Civil War related? Even? They're in the territories, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like some dudes that are bad and taking pot shots at a federally held fort, so sort of.
Okay, I guess.
Were they Indians?
What? I thought we were done.
Were they Mexican bandits?
Were
they Confederate soldiers?
Anything
if
out
it's
in the
west
far
of
west
Mississippi,
I have a hard time caring about it these days.
Yeah, anything in the far west is kind of just a free for all anyways, even before the war. So who knows?
I'll tell you what. Yeah, you cross that Mississippi and you might die.
You might die.
I'm just sorry about you. You might die.
You definitely might die. On the 28th of July, Johnny, we're going to see governors of Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana teaming up to write a letter to Trader President Davis requesting that A, there's a commanding general be assigned for that region, that they receive guns, money, and munitions for, and I quote, without them, we cannot use our strength nor fully develop the mighty power of resistance that is in our midst. So I'm
sorry, the South is in need of guns and ammo and food, and they think they can get it just by writing a letter to their trader president.
Yeah. So I have.
I'm sure the response was, LOL, we're all out.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. So my first response to this is Missouri isn't the Confederate state, so why the hell is there a Missouri governor writing a fucking letter to the trader president?
Tommy, we've been dealing with Missouri having a whole bunch of traders deep in their little heartland.
But I have to point out every single time, Missouri did not secede. Didn't secede. I know the governor wanted to secede, right, but the people said no, so you can't just be like, well, I lost that election, I'm going to change the results. Well, actually, apparently we're fighting a whole war over that, so who am I to...
I mean, literally what Lincoln's been doing this whole war, too, is, no, we're going to go ahead and do what I want.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, second point here is that Texas is the only state of governors in this list that is not currently being at least partially occupied by Union forces, so not a strong group of people to be like, we can defend the Confederacy. And third, like you said, Johnny, they don't got no money, they got no guns, they got no munitions. Good luck getting anything out of Trader President Davis.
No, like I'm sure he would love to help out anybody, especially traders in a northern state. Help anybody benefit their war, but they can't. They can't. They don't. They ain't got it.
Not happening.
Like, get good, take over something from the Union, and see if they've got any extra guns you can take.
Now, one of my favorite,
we do, by the way, lots of them. We took most of them from you.
One of my favorite, most confusing points here, Johnny, of this week is that on the 28th, a pro-union paper known as the St. Croix Herald in New Brunswick, Canada, so way up in Canada, there's a pro-union paper. They're going to get rated by
why is there a pro-union paper in Canada?
Great question, Johnny.
They're getting into this?
They're going to get a bunch of their machines destroyed by an anti-union group. But they break into their offices and just, why? Canada, you're not in this war. You don't own slaves. You haven't owned slaves in like forever. Why do you care? What the? And but see, here's my thought here, Johnny. Here's my thought. They like cotton and tobacco. And so while they might not own slaves themselves,
sure,
several of the very rich mercantiles might have a vested interest in the South seceding successfully here for cheap cotton and tobacco.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead and say maybe that's why they're...
Fine.
But the pro-union one...
Question for you, Tommy. Suppose that's all of that's true, and there's a pro-union paper in Canada.
Yes.
The hell is this pro-Confederate troop gonna do by destroying their shit up there? To help win the war for the South and make their things that they want cheaper.
Uh-huh.
It
makes no sense. It makes no sense, Johnny. It makes no
nonsense.
Sense. But apparently,
what are you doing, Canada? Stay out of it.
To be fair, anytime the United States has any kind of war in all of our history, it has somehow involved Canada, at least in some tiny facet, one way or the other. And here we are, spreading into Canada by newspaper propaganda and people being mad about it. So,
all right. Well, I hope that the North, the super far North.
The St. Croix Herald
can recover and fix their machines and whatever, and keep spreading that good word for the Union to your Canadian readers who do not.
Maybe Lincoln has a vested interest in this. I have to look into that. Maybe he
a nephew or something who's like working for the paper, trying to intern.
He might
sent him up there to be safe.
Speaking of the old crown, over in England on the 29th, the currently named ship Enrica is going to set off on its 31st trial run. Yeah, you heard that right, Johnny. 31st trial run. 31st and final.
31st trial?
Yeah, 31st and final trial run.
Is it
and
a
this
new
final
experimental
trial run, Johnny,
type of ship?
No, it's just a steamer. It's just a boat. It's
just a steamer. Just regular. We've done these before, and they're still.
Yep.
They're still after 27 times. They thought we better keep going on
this one. Yep. Well, it's going to leave the Irish Sea and proceed to the Atlantic. Johnny, it's going to leave the Irish Sea, proceed to the Atlantic, where it's going to rendezvous with a Confederate group that is going to arm and get ammunition to the boat and turn it over to the Confederates who have paid in gold for it. And they're going to rename it the Confederate CSS Alabama. So its goal here is that the Alabama is going to start raiding federal shipping. And it's not like this was a secret. The U.S. representatives in England knew that this purchase had been going on and knew that this boat was going to be turned over to the Confederates. And were like, hey, could you not? To which point the Crown said, hey, they paid in gold.
Where'd they get the gold?
Oh, from the Nolans mints. Yeah.
All of their gold.
Yeah, it was the gold.
Was it just they cleaned the bank out to
it's at least
a ship in to add to a navy that has been all but disbanded and made useless.
Yeah.
But they're like, "Ooh, we just need one ship, and we'll be able to get all of those Union shipping boats or whatever."
Yeah, most of the Confederate Navy now at this point is just a couple of barges with some cannons thrown on top of it. But
well, that's gold well spent, and surely you couldn't have used that in any better way, President Davis.
We'll see how it plays out in the future, but for right now, General Pope is going to leave Washington, D.C. to establish his headquarters in the field with his Army of Virginia, his newly formed Army of Virginia, which I would rather call and refer to it as the Army of Kanawha, because at least you can distinguish it from the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, and the fact that, you're coming out of Kanawha, you just made a new state, like let it break away from Virginia. Everything doesn't have to be named Virginia.
To be fair, they really screwed the pooch over on naming the new state.
The West Virginia? Yeah, they did. They screwed the pooch on.
But they could at least be the West Virginia.
Yeah, the Army of West Virginia, or the Army of the Shenandoah Valley. I've come up with 2 better names, 3 better names.
Be specific so that we know who to root for.
Yeah,
I think is what's important.
That very, very, very good point. A woman also on the 29th by the name of Belle Boyd is going to be arrested near Warrenton, Virginia. She's going to be charged with being a Confederate spy and a mail carrier for the Confederacy. Now, Belle Boyd has actually been known to Union forces since the early spring of 1862, where she has been caught several times stealing information. And gets away
she
every single time.
Escaped
by flirting with Union officers who are just like, how you doing? And let her go. Knowing full well that she's a spy, knowing full well that all your pillow talk is now going to be firmly in the hands of Robert E. Lee. Well, she's arrested this time, Johnny. She's arrested, and she is sent to jail. She's going to be sent to Old Capitol Prison in Washington. So we're going to do a special episode on her in the next couple of weeks because she's a very interesting character.
It sounds like she's just an attractive female who knows how to, bat her eyelids at lonely soldiers and get information.
That's pretty much what she's doing. Yep. But we're going
to... men are dumb.
Men are dumb. We'll get into that episode at a later date there, Johnny. On the 30th of July, General Halleck, the new commander of the Union forces, he's going to order McClellan to remove his sick and wounded from Harrison's Landing in preparation to move his entire army to northern Virginia back towards Washington. So basically, McClellan's grand campaign to take over Richmond is officially over with a resounding...
Did he do it?
Not a success. Not even remotely a success. Not even kind of a success. Just a complete total abysmal failure.
I think it depends on who you ask, because I think if you ask McClellan, who clearly wanted to engage no one, do nothing, and assume no risk, I think he would say it's a monstrous success.
Well,
He crushed it.
that is a monstrous success, Johnny. And speaking of monstrous successes, in Boston, several cannons are going to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. These cannons were made by melted down bronze church bells that were donated by Southern churches for the Southern cause that were captured in Nolens by General Butler, shipped up to Boston to be sold to various militia artillery units that will use them against these very Southern sympathizing churches. So
The only thing I think that could have made that better if they were just bought by rich folks who wanted to use them for decoration.
I'm not saying that didn't happen. It might have. It's still the highest bidder.
Maybe. And maybe eventually, too. But, so, the South, Bible Belt, took the church bells, which are very important to the church, right? At least the German-based churches.
Yeah.
Melted them down, made cannons. Those got stolen. And then
by General Butler
auction.
in Nolens.
So they not only raised money for the Union Army, presumably.
Yes, they did.
The auction money.
Yes.
They also were then used against
The Confederacy, yes.
that is poetic justice? Is that
poetic justice? I think is yes.
terminology?
Yeah, that's the terminology I'm going to use, Johnny. It's poetic justice. Yep. And Johnny,
it's beautiful, no doubt.
It is very beautiful. This very beautiful week is going to come to an end with Traitor President Davis writing a letter to Robert E. Lee demanding that he change the policy on the treatment of captured Union officers. So this is all in response to Lincoln's property seizure threats here, where Traitor President Davis is going to admit to Robert E. Lee that, yes, they did sign a exchange of prisoners accord on the 22nd of July, but he's going to ignore that exchange of prisoner accord because, and I quote here, the Union commenced a practice of changing the character of war from such as become civilized nations into a campaign of indiscriminate robbery and murder. So he has specifically ordered...
Can we back up real quick? Because this is not a war between civilized nations. There is a nation involved in this war.
You're very right.
And then there is a traitorous
group of
nation state.
Murders and robbers.
What did we call it?
Yeah.
We were calling it something. There was a term for it. I don't know. But anyway. Go back 8 weeks and figure it out.
A belligerent nation?
Belligerent nation. Yeah.
Yes. So in any case, Robert E. Lee is going to be ordered by Traitor President Davis that anybody from or any Union officer from Pope's army is not to be treated as a prisoner of war, but instead treated as a felon, which means that they would be tried and probably summarily executed for robbery.
But you want to know what? That's kind of fair.
Maybe, assuming they did
with
anything
what we're
wrong.
doing.
If they did it.
Always that. That's always the case. But with what we're doing, we're just like, well, just take your property.
Well, we'll see how this plays out the next weeks to come. If these war crimes turn into anything else. That's it for this week in Civil War in Hindsight. If you enjoy Civil War in Hindsight, check out Historic Hindsight. We talk about all kinds of fun things, like how we had an ex-Confederate / ex-Union soldier go on a robbing spree and getting himself lynched, and how the turkeys decided that rapid-fire guns were the way to go.